Without innovation, we're not going to solve climate change. The key to getting capital to flow to clean energy projects is a multitude of things. Certainly, governments need to provide incentives, policies, and risk capital. I'm really proud to be joined with a great friend, great supporter of grain for many years, Mike Moradian. He's the Chief Business Officer at Avalon International, and he comes with a wealth of experience working on and financing energy projects. Michael, thanks for being with us, and maybe just kick us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and how you're approaching the capital stack when you look at energy projects today.
Yeah, so a little bit background on myself. Before joining Avalon, I was at Siemens for over 15 years. I ran the private equity fund there and really developed over 20 gigawatts worth of energy projects. I've raised capital and debt from conventional gas-fired combined cycle power plants to renewable energy assets. And in my more recent role with Avalon, I've looked at a little bit more strategic in sense of looking at hydrogen deals as well as carbon capture, and like we got connected, getting involved on the ethanol and biochar side a little bit more too.
And how does Avalon approach financing from a debt and equity perspective? What's the typical split, and what check sizes are you typically looking to write for projects?
Yeah, on check size, really it's pretty open right now. Anywhere from 1 mil to 100 mil is kind of the range that we operate in. And what we're really looking for in projects that are bankable and financeable is that we've got solid offtake agreements, a PPA in place, something that's going to give it perpetual cash flows for 15 to 25 years. That's what makes projects financeable. So if it has that, it's bankable, financeable, it's got PPA or offtake agreement in place, that's how we get really comfortable with projects.
And speaking of projects, obviously at Grain, we're extremely passionate about moving the biochar market forward, not letting perfection be the enemy of the good, but you have to make sound investment decisions. What challenges are you seeing with some of the deals that you've looked at and had discussions with around financing these biochar projects? And maybe highlight a few of the things that you like from the projects that you've seen so far in the space.
Yeah, I think some of the challenges comes from, just getting the offtake guaranteed and making sure that you have say cash flows on that for say 5 to 20 year time range. So the more that we see that and we have offtake and as well as the intake for the biochar assets, right, supplying that and making sure there's no risk to that. Those are the moving elements that we see with biochar assets and investment opportunities that give us a little bit of pause, right? But if you can really overcome the intake and offtake hurdle, then that makes us a lot more comfortable with the investment opportunity. In terms of, what was your second question?
Well, it was really some of the things you've seen that you like in some of the biochar projects you've looked at, and then we're going to talk a little bit about breaking out the revenue streams in these projects, leveraging your experience with ethanol and other things.
Yeah, so one of the projects that we looked at, the gentleman really had a monopoly on the intake that was going to happen, that they needed to execute for the biochar asset. So him having, guaranteed supply was really, made us pretty bullish on the investment opportunity, and then also being able to negotiate all the offtake agreements with anyone around him. That really made us comfortable with that opportunity.
One of the questions I'm particularly excited to ask you about, just like you, I come from a background of private equity, financing microgrids, obviously working on very large microgrid projects, both at the fleet level, but also when you think about distributed energy, wind, solar, storage, geothermal. When you look at these projects, particularly biochar, I was in DC last week. They said about 10% of projects that they're seeing globally, biochar producing energy. Now, when you look at deals, I know you're looking at certainly ethanol, you've looked at methane, you've looked at water filtration. How do you think about the different revenue streams tied to these biochar projects? And also, where do you see the role of microgrids, particularly for large organizations like a sugar mill, a food processing facility that's a little bit more remote and might have not as much access to the energy necessary if there is a cataclysmic event in that region, like Louisiana, for example?
Yeah, we're super bullish on microgrids. We think that that's a really good investment opportunity, and that these assets should have their own microgrid. And the more they supply and control their own energy demand and generation, we think that really de-risks projects. So we really like that.
And the revenue streams for biochar projects, can you share how you're thinking about biochar projects from a energy generation perspective, combined heating and power? I know we talked a little bit about the role of PPAs, RECs, VPPAs. Do you see that in the space from all these discussions you're having with industry leaders?
Definitely, yeah. Those are all very important factors for us. The one variable that is been a little bit hard for us to get comfortable with is, say, carbon credits, right? What's the market really doing? Right now, we feel like it's a very opaque market, and there's not much transparency. So we really don't have the confidence to say that with these carbon credits these carbon credits that we can get them sold to, say, big tech at X dollar amount per ton, right? So that's given us a little bit of pause, right? Because we don't have that confidence, because we haven't really operated in the carbon credit market to say that, okay, for X dollar per ton, we're going to get $200 per ton or $100 per ton credit, right? So that's one variable that's given us a little bit of pause.
Okay, fair enough. And that's something obviously we're working hard to address and demystify. I always say courage is knowing what not to fear. So I think this is something that's going to help drive more capital into the space. One thing our community doesn't get to hear about as much, we try to prepare them for, is investment committee. You have a really impressive investment committee. It's a rigorous process. Can you explain at a very high level how your investment committee works? And particularly if you get a biochar project on your desk, what does it take to go through the different hurdles of your investment committee, and what are some of the questions that are asked there?
Yeah, the investment committee is key to any investment that we do. Without that, our process fails and falls flat on its feet. So with that process, really, it's the key is getting to the data room, going through all the due diligence documents, going through the financial model, looking at the offtake, the PPAs, making sure everything's executed and everything's in place. For the energy generation demand, understanding what that demand and cost profile looks like. So really diving deep into the data room, getting as much data as possible, that's key, right? We'd rather have you throw a massive data room to us, that way we have the most amount of data to really go through. That gets, that helps de-risk the project, helps us get up to speed quicker.
Oh, fantastic. And I guess one more for you. Talk to me a little bit about how you see your role evolving in terms of collaboration with Grain, how that helps you accelerate the investment thesis, maybe think about things differently. I'm always a big fan of uncovering blind spots. I think we have a lot of false confidence. Guys like you and I have been in this industry a long time. We're learning a lot about biochar and carbon removal markets every day. But maybe share a bit about your experience with Grain and how you see that going forward to hopefully make some of your first big biochar investments here.
Yeah, definitely. So for us, one of our blind spots is biochar. I'd say, I come from conventional gas-fired and renewable generation. I feel very comfortable in that space. But biochar was new to me until we met, right? You're the one that really introduced it, put it on my front of the radar for me, right? So really leveraging the expertise that you guys have in-house and all the deals that you've seen come across your desk, working with the developers, just understanding more of that from you guys and understanding how you guys look at the investment thesis and outlook, and kind of letting you guys be the experts to guide us and get us up to speed. That's what we've seen beneficial and what's been working so far with our relationship. And I hope that we can continue to leverage that and learn more from you guys and really leverage your domain expertise in biochar to get us up to speed, to feel more comfortable with the investments. Because simply looking at IRRs, right? When I look at the IRRs of a biochar deal versus a conventional gas-fired asset or renewable generation, it's multiples better, right? The check sizes are smaller. You can't put big institutional capital into the biochar yet, but the IRRs are significantly a factor of multiple higher than what we can get on conventional gas-fired or renewable generation assets. So I'm super bullish on biochar for that reason.
And that's the goal. I mean, we're just trying to give investors like yourself the knowledge, the courage, all the things necessary to make those very tough decisions to come to the space. And the way we get there is to execute, bring people to the site, see things. And my last question is more of a fun question. I know you're a big fan of golf. You play a lot of golf, of course, and having been all over the world, and certainly I spent many years living in the Middle East, biochar could be a great additive for golf courses, certainly. When you think about the improving microbial nature, not having to use so much water, you need less water. How do you feel about biochar in that use case? And how do you see it maybe impacting some of the things that are near and dear to you and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I believe you. If you say it's possible, then yeah, I'd love to see it. To play on a course that's, foundation is biochar, that'd be pretty cool.
And your handicap now, it's under 10?
Plus or minus. It just depends how much I'm able to get on the course with clients.